Hey honeys. So on today's video, I want to talk about my hardest loss that I have been through. So again, from prior videos, I have had 5 losses, 2 being at 8 weeks and the other 3 being 6 weeks and under. So this could just be me, or other people could feel the same way. There is one loss that has always stuck out to me. That was the hardest for me to get through. That was the hardest on my body. It was hardest on me mentally. So I did want to talk about that. So anyway, getting into it, my hardest loss was my miscarriage with my first IVF at 8 weeks. Again, my very first loss, I was 8 weeks, but that was an unexpected pregnancy. I did talk about that in my last video, so we will not get into that. But yeah, when we went through our first round of IVF, that was the first time I had ever seen my baby's heartbeat. That was the first time that, obviously I had to take injections and had multiple ultrasounds to check my egg quality. I went through the whole egg retrieval and the embryo transfer, and I ended up getting pregnant with 1 baby. We went in and we saw the heartbeat at 6 weeks, and we saw the heartbeat at 7 weeks. And then when we went in for that 3rd one, if I remember correctly, there was no heartbeat. And a couple days prior to that, at my 7-week appointment per se, I had weird, like, watery discharge. So for most pregnant people, your discharge is going to be a lot more when you're pregnant. And I was newly pregnant, so that wasn't really for me yet. But all of a sudden, I was at work and it was like I just kind of felt a gush of water. And I went to the bathroom because I thought I was bleeding. And it was just clear, but like it had soaked my underwear. And the first thought that came to my mind was, oh my, like I'm leaking amniotic fluid. Like that's what had come to my mind. I just knew something wasn't right. I started crying, I started panicking. I called the doctor. I was like, can you get me in today? Like I need to get checked. So they got me in. Again, I was with my fertility doctor, so I did drive to Indy for that ultrasound. And luckily that day, everything was okay. But I did, again, I was panicking. I walked into the doctor's office. I was crying. The nurses were hugging me. I was kind of a mess. And everything that day was great. Huge relief. And then, 4 or 5 days later, whenever it was, when I had my 8-week ultrasound scheduled, the baby didn't have a heartbeat. So that was the first time that I really went through it per se. The doctor gave us a couple minutes to ourselves in the room, and we just hugged each other and cried. Sorry. And then the doctor wanted to talk to us. So, we went in there and had the conversation, and he was like, I can give you the methotrexate to pass the baby, or you can do it on your own. We can keep an eye on you to see if you're gonna need a DNC. And I decided at that point, because I knew my body, that I just wanted to naturally see if I could pass the baby on my own. And I was just so devastated. I was going through all the emotions, and it's like, let me feel it all. Like, emotionally, I'm struggling right now. So, like, let me feel the physical pain. I had to take a breather there for a second, guys. But anyway, So I had decided that I wanted to naturally miscarry. So the ride home was silent. We both didn't say a word to each other. I was crying on and off and just staring at the window or out the window. Ashton was just driving, staring at the road in a daze. We get home and I don't remember if it was the next day after that or the following night, but I feel like it was around like, I don't know, 8, 9 o'clock, and I just started to get so crampy, and it was tough. It was the worst cramps I'd ever had before. And again, I had been through that previous miscarriage and it was miserable. When I had gone through that last one, I had eaten like 5 or 6 Midol all at once just to get rid of some of the pain, because Midol has honestly been the only medicine that it's ever worked for me when it comes to stomach pain or headaches. Tylenol, Aleve, any of that stuff has never touched anything for me. So anyway, I was starting to feel it again. I was getting really, really bad cramps, and of course I knew this was coming. And I wasn't bleeding yet, but I got to the point and it was just again getting later and later, and I got to the point where I was actually fully having contractions. My body was contracting about every 3 minutes, and then it went down to like every 2 minutes, and then it was every minute my body was just tightening up so bad and it was contracting, and I was in so much pain. Like my body started shivering. It started like almost borderline convulsing, and I couldn't control it. I was just I was in so much pain, and just the emotional pain of, you know, knowing what's coming. It was miserable. It was so miserable. I was just sitting there, and I was just on my bed, and I was just rocking back and forth, sitting there, and I was moving, and I was trying to get, you know, every time a contraction came around, I was moving, and I was like, how am I even having contractions? Like, I'm only 8 weeks along. Of course, I looked it up later on. It's a real life thing. Some people have it, some people don't. And it seemed like for so long, but I think that was going on for about an hour. And, you know, I was crying just because I was just so emotionally upset. I was crying because I was hurting. I was mad. I was angry. I was sad. I just felt I felt everything that you can ever imagine. And I just sat on the toilet because somehow that gave me relief. And then I did start bleeding. I bled a lot. At some point obviously passed the baby, but I was just in so much pain, and I ended up just laying on the bathroom floor and just, you know, almost rocking in the fetal position. And Ashton had gotten up at that point. It was, I don't know, midnight, 1 o'clock. We had lived in town, so luckily Walmart wasn't that far, and he went and got me Midol. And again, I took multiple Midol just to get the pain away, just to get it to subside a little bit. And I finally just fell asleep on the bathroom floor. I think I was just so mentally exhausted. My body was physically exhausted. And I had fallen asleep on the bathroom floor for a couple hours. And that was definitely the hardest loss. That was the hardest, as far as physically, that I ever had to go through. And that was the hardest mentally, because after the fact, I had to deal with waking up that next morning knowing I was not pregnant anymore. I had to come to terms with the fact that we just spent almost 20 grand on this IVF round only for it to not be successful. I had to think about what are we gonna do from here? How are we gonna afford another round of fertility treatment? You know, where's our relationship gonna go from here? This was the first time that we really had to actually be open and really grieve a loss. And it was like, you know, how is he gonna grieve? How am I gonna grieve? And we found out then that we both grieve completely separately, and we both grieve in an opposite manner, which I will get into in another video. I want to make another video about how everybody grieves differently and how it's okay to grieve at your own pace in your own way. But anyway, and then I had to, luckily, my boss gave me some time off work from there, but I then had to decide, I'm gonna go back to work and I'm gonna put on a happy face. And again, not a lot of people knew what was going on, so I was gonna keep it that way. But I was very emotionally exhausted after that, going to work all day and dealing with patients, seeing 60 people a day and acting like everything's good. And then going home, I would be so mentally exhausted, emotionally exhausted from playing happy all day when I wasn't. I was dying inside. And then trying to figure out how I was going to pull myself together for, my husband, and pull myself together enough to decide what's next, and am I strong enough to continue going. I was just so angry. I was so angry with the world. I was so mad at my body for letting me down. I was so mad that none of this was in my control. I was sad. I was sad for myself. I was sad for my mom. I was sad for my family, my friends. I was sad for Ashton. He wanted to be a dad so bad. And my body let me down. And I think going through infertility, for most women, that's the hardest part to wrap your head around, is the fact that your body can and will sometimes let you down. And in these circumstances, you have no control over it. I did everything right. I was eating good. I was not working out. Again, I will get into this in another video as well, but whenever I was going through fertility treatment, I would not be going to the gym. I would not be doing anything extra or strenuous on my body. So, but I was eating good for the most part. I was resting. I wasn't lifting anything heavy. I was doing everything right, per se, and my body still denied me that pregnancy. So, and then at that point, I got off of social media. I actually got off of social media before that, but I had thought about, going back to it, but I just, at that point, I couldn't. I missed keeping up with people's lives. I missed, keeping up with my friends and everything like that, but I couldn't. Even though, when I would see pregnancy announcements and I was happy for people, because pregnancy is always a happy thing. I would never ever say that it's a bad thing. But I could not see other people be pregnant, and then seeing people of my age having their second, their third, their fourth kid, and here I am just trying so hard to just get one. It was miserable for me, and I was putting myself in a darker spot by seeing those things. So I had to be aware enough, self-aware enough to shut that stuff down and say, Kylie, you can't continue looking at that. And again, it's not that I wasn't happy for those people, it's just that I was sad for myself. So number one tip of going through infertility or getting over a loss of some sort, or just getting yourself through the next day, is to always keep your mental health at number one in your life. Keep that number one, whether you need to go to therapy, whether you need to talk to a friend often, whether you need to vent, whether you need to pray, read books, listen to music, do whatever you got to do to keep your mental health straight, because you can go down a very, very, very dark hole. And I've been there multiple times. I actually feel like I've been there for the most part for the past few years. And you just learn how to cope, you learn how to overlook it, but you also realize that you're, you know, at least me personally, I've realized that I am a different person in some aspects. Some of my habits are very much like that of somebody, you know, with depression, which I've never been diagnosed. I would never take any medication or anything while trying to go through treatment. I've always tried to deal with it on my own. But again, that's part of infertility. You just have to find ways to cope, and you have to find ways to force a smile on your face and keep going until you reach that point. And then again, I know it'll affect me forever, so it's not like I can even say that I won't still have down moments, because it still does make me sad at times, and I know it will for the rest of my life. But anyway, I just wanted to open up to you guys about that, about the hardest loss that I have been through. And hopefully, again, I'm very excited to hear you guys' journeys. I'm excited to hear the things that you have been through, if you feel comfortable opening up. And I don't wish this on anyone. I don't wish this on anyone at all. But it will make us become better moms. It will make us become better parents. So I always tell myself that. I have, through this whole 8-year journey, I've always told myself, Kylie, this struggle is going to make you a better mom. It's going to make you a better parent. It's going to make you love your baby more. It's going to make you not take those small moments for granted. So remind yourself of that. Stay positive. And thank you guys for watching my video, and I will see you guys soon.